Hello again. I know that I've talked about this before, but since this is one myth or mistaken idea which seems very deep rooted, I thought I'd have another go at it. Like many people, I have tried Googling happy white woman and white family and duly been shocked by the number of black people who appear rather than the white ones I was looking for. Viewers might be interested to know the origin of all this. That is to say, how we started Googling white man and then being angered and dismayed to discover that the search was instead showing us black men. I mean, let's face it, it's an odd thing to do, isn't it? Google white families and white men like that. I suppose it would be wrong to describe this really as an urban myth because such searches actually do bring up these predicted results, but the reasons behind what we see are definitely in the urban myth category. How did we come to be doing something so bizarre as Googling white family or happy white woman? It really kicked off a couple of years ago with a book called The Madness of Crowds. The author, Douglas Murray, wrote this. If you tell Google you would like to see images of black men, the images that come up are all portrait photos of black men. Indeed, it takes more than a dozen rows of images before anybody who isn't black comes up in the images. By contrast, a search for white men first throws up an image of David Beckham, who is white, but then the second is of a black model. From there, every line of 5 images has either 1 or 2 black men in the lineup. Many of the images of white men are of people convicted of crimes with taglines such as "Beware of the average white man" and "White men are bad." This is the point at which Googling white people or white women really took off as an activity which people would tell each other about in hushed tones as though they'd unearthed some sort of conspiracy. The urban myth part of this relates to the reason why Googling white man will bring up black men and so on. The story is that this is part of a sinister plan, usually by a group of powerful Jews, to manipulate our perceptions and prepare us for the time that white people are first marginalised and then finally done away with altogether. This ties in with what I said in the earlier video today about the Great Replacement and Kalergi plan. This is certainly an intriguing idea, but there's probably a simpler explanation. Google is the world's most popular search engine for a reason. The reason is that when we Google something, the results are often spookily accurate. That is to say, we type in just a word or two and Google seems to read our mind and guess as if by magic what it is we're actually looking for, even if our search terms were pretty vague. The explanation for this is that they have an extremely good algorithm. When people search for, say, dogs, Google recalled that, and then they also recalled what sites people actually went on after their initial search. In other words, they tried to find out what people were really looking for when they Googled that word, dog. So if 100 people search for the word dog, and then 95 of them then log on to sites relating to pet dogs and their care or buying dogs, then Google figures that what most people want when they search for dog is advice on buying and caring for pet dogs. That's why Googling dog or dogs and then looking at images will bring up a load of typical family dogs which are clearly pets. You won't see a pack of wild dogs from Africa or a police dog, guide dog for the blind or a child with injuries caused by a dog bite. You can find those if you look harder, but Google knows that most people want to find out really about pet dogs. Exactly this process is applied to all searches on Google, and it has nothing at all to do with a political agenda. Why would it? Google's a profit-making company. Why would a commercial concern wish to make sure that people looked at pictures of black men rather than white ones? What would be the financial advantage to them in that? It doesn't really make sense. For those who are not convinced by this, perhaps I can suggest a few searches on Google which seem actually to discriminate against black people rather than favouring them. Try Googling intelligent child or genius child. Wow, nothing but white children and a few Indians. You'd think they would have rigged it so that black kids come up there. What about bright teenager? The same thing. Hardly any black teenagers. But now Google gangs. At once we find loads of images of menacing looking young black people. So Google gives us white people for bright teenager and black ones for gangs. What about good schools? Again, it's all white children. Now try poor school. It's all black children. Rather than simply take Douglas Murray's word for all this, I honestly think that viewers might like to experiment themselves a bit with Googling various things. The results honestly do not suggest to me that Google is controlled by some conspiracy determined to eradicate white people. Indeed, if anything, the search engine actually seems to be gripped by the same negative stereotypes about black people which are common in society as a whole. I think that we'll find that Google as a search engine is actually controlled by the people that use it more than the some person from up above dictating the search results. I think they've got a really good algorithm that 99 times out of 100 brings up what we're looking for when we use it, which of course is why everybody uses Google.